In breaking down the reasons for the evil state of the earth, Dr. Mike has stated that the Watchers are instrumental. So, since their temptation was sexual, could the current and past invasion of perversion and sexual grip, even on Christians, be the evil power's primary method of enforcing their theology or government?
Well, I don't think we need, on one hand, I don't think we need the Watchers to explain human immorality, especially sexual immorality. Everybody has the urge, and they're going to fulfill the urge, and it's pretty much that simple. On the other side of this, it is true that, again, in Second Temple Jewish theology, that the proliferation of evil gets blamed on the Watchers, or at least, the Watchers bear a significant part of the burden, again, in that literature. And by the way, the people in the Second Temple period aren't denying that the human condition, the depravity, they're not denying that depravity is the result of an inner impulse that people just have, again, because they're not God and they're natural born. People are going to sin. So they're not denying that, but they do, look at what goes on with the transgression of the Watchers and assign importance to that because of it sort of, adds gasoline to the fire, to use a modern analogy. It was just something that made the problem worse and accelerated it, which in the Second Temple Jewish mind is why we get Genesis 6:5. That every thought and the imagination of the hearts of people, were only evil continually. If you actually just read Genesis 6:1 through 4, Genesis 6:1 through 4 doesn't seem to have any relationship to verse 5. It really doesn't. And it's because it's an abbreviation. It's an abbreviated accounting, really hearkening back specifically to Mesopotamian theology, which I've dealt with at length in Unseen Realm and elsewhere on the podcast. And the view, the issue with Genesis 6:1 to 4 really isn't about the proliferation of evil among humanity. That's encapsulated in one verse in verse 5. And that doesn't really, that's not a point that emerges specifically from the Mesopotamian context. So, there are reasons why, you don't get a clear connection in the first 5 verses of Genesis like you do with Second Temple literature, which goes into more of the backstory and draws out more details of it than the biblical writer did. So, again, what we have here on one hand is, I don't think, we look at what's happening with the degradation of the moral culture today, sexually, is that some indication of continued Watcher activity or something? I don't believe that. I don't think that that's even necessary. Are we still dealing, with depravity and does the Second Temple theology and of course New Testament theology? Again, I hate to keep bringing up my book about Enoch, but there's a whole chapter on, Galatians 3 and 4. We did a whole podcast episode on just whose sins are we talking about that necessitated the addition of the law to restrain evil. There is this thread of thought in New Testament theology that what happens in Genesis 6:1 through 4 contributed to the acceleration of depravity. But to just take that event and use that as the explanation for what we see now, again, I think overstates what's being said there, because human beings are going to do what human beings are going to do. And they're going to react on their impulses. They're going to run from the law of God. They're going to react selfishly, or however you want to characterize. They're going to sin. Okay, they're going to sin. We all sin. We can't help, but sin. And so that can't be minimized to, again, turn our situation, our cultural situation, into something that is purely demonic. And the reason, I'll just throw this in too. The reason why that sort of rubs me the wrong way, and I'm not saying the questioner is thinking this. I mean, there's nothing in the question that would make me think the questioner is thinking this. But I have heard this in other contexts and from other people. It just makes it too easy to say that we're doing this because of demonic powers, or demonic forces. The devil made us do this. We can screw up our lives just fine on our own. And I think it sort of lessens our accountability to sort of chalk things up to external forces all the time, or at least sort of want to go there all the time. So I'm a little sensitive to that, because we do need to own what we do, and again, consider our own role in the way we mess up our own lives, and the way our culture's going. And I'll add one more thought. If you think our culture's bad, do some reading on Greco-Roman culture. Okay, we have a long way to go before we ever get as bad as some of that. So let's not have tunnel vision about our own culture. We could actually look at ourselves in many respects and say, boy, we're a whole lot better off than we were back then, and that would be true. Okay, it really would be true. So we want to avoid, again, kind of having too much of a perspective that is dominated by our own circumstances, as opposed to what's going on in humanity in other times and really other parts of the world, even today.